This is a long and meandering story that came to a climax about 12 years ago. It's one of the most bizarre things that's happened to me, and left me rattled and puzzled for a long time. When I was in college, my father retired and moved to New Orleans. He had lived there in his 20s and 30s, and his two sons from his first marriage, my half-brothers, still lived there. He moved into a cool apartment complex with a swimming pool in the center courtyard and a lot of sociable people his age. One of them was a retired Army general. I'll call him Tom. My dad and Tom were the same age, and both Korean War veterans. My dad had been in the Marines for 4 years during the latter part of the war, while Tom had stayed in and risen through the ranks. Tom had been to Ranger School and the Special Forces Pipeline, and was a country expert for Korea. He was in Korea for most of the Cold War, training ROK Marines, gaming out will scenarios, and working closely with a large private corporation I will not name here doing semi-spook stuff. He retired shortly before September 11th. He was a full colonel at the time, and was promoted to Brigadier General 1 star, just before retirement to sweeten his pension. That was kind of a professional courtesy old boy club thing. After 9/11, the government expanded the Federal Air Marshal Service and asked Tom to come out of retirement lead the restructuring. They wanted someone who didn't have a parent command, and since he had been out of the Army for a year or so, he was a good candidate. They promoted him to Major General, 2 star, so that he would have clout among the other generals, GS-15 civilian employees, and private sector executives he'd be working with. Colin Powell pinned his 2nd star on him personally in the White House. At this time I was in the Marine Reserve myself, and getting ready to graduate college. I'd not yet been called up for OEF, so I was looking for my first grown-up job. My dad suggested that being an air marshal could be fun for a year or two, even if it wasn't exactly something I was interested in. I had a clearance and was an expert on the range, not mention I was a friend of the 2-star who was running the program, so I was maybe a step ahead of some of the other candidates. My dad arranged a phone call with Tom to talk about my options. At this point Eld met Tom many times when Eld go to visit my dad. He was one of the kindest men alive known. We'd sit around the pool and I would pick his brain endlessly about his military experience and the spooky adventures he was at liberty to talk about. As a young enlisted Marine, it's hard to describe the feeling of being close with a 2-star general. I had seen a general maybe 3 times at that point. If you're a lance corporal in a rifle platoon and a major shows up in the barracks, you snap to attention and bark out "attention on deck," like it was Darth Vader walking in the room. Somebody with stars on their collar might just give you a heart attack right there. So to be shooting the shit with Tom was pretty special for me. Tom was a widower and an old southern gentleman, and dated women here and there. Although he didn't smoke, he always carried a Zippo lighter with him to light a lady's cigarette. He lit a cigarette for me by the pool one day, and I noted that his Zippo had a Ranger crest on it. He said that his daughter had given it to him years before, and thought it was gaudy at the time. He wasn't the type I